Denver playing with such confidence right now. Jokic has got himself a triple-double here in Game 7.
I am absolutely shocked. Give this Denver Nuggets team a lot of credit. They're taking the fight away from the Clippers.
They are the comeback kids from Colorado.
That hurts. It hurts, but we move on.
All right, look who joined the roast. Oh, it's Kendrick Perkins, NBA champion. Good to have you here with us. Oh, there's the smile, Max. I see a little smile on your face. Max, Kawhi leaves Toronto.
Everybody coming at me today.
Yeah, he leaves Toronto for greener pastures, just like you did when you left for LA, and you see what happened. So how devastating is this loss for Kawhi?
So you're asking me, Molly?
Yeah, asking you, Max.
Who else?
Totally devastating.
Who the hell?
The regular season. Kawhi during the regular season is not LeBron or KD. That he's a quarter step below that, even in the last several years. The reason I have been calling him the best player in the world over the last year is because when it mattered most, he was better than anyone. And he had an entire playoff series, not just the finals, bell to bell in the playoffs, just about as good as anyone who ever lived, right? So when you have that in that moment of high leverage, and we're talking about a league where regular season is whatever, the fact is more than 50% of the teams make the playoffs, 16 out of 30. So you got to wait till the playoffs to see who really the best player is. Now, LeBron was not available to play in those playoffs. That is true. Nevertheless, Kawhi took it by force. And I'm not trying to hear that, well, KD and Klay were hurt. If KD and Klay were healthy, no team was going to beat the Warriors, including a LeBron-led team. No one was going to beat that team. So, of course, those guys, or at least KD, had to get hurt. For Kawhi, was an all-time great when they needed it most. And given the way he played in high-leverage moments throughout his career, I give that much more weight than the regular season, where he's still great, but not quite MVP, just below MVP. But I give much more weight to when it matters most. So that's Kawhi. Kawhi is the one dude who must show up in a Game 7, who cannot allow a team led by him that's led by double digits in 3 straight games around halftime, right? Because that means they got enough to win. He cannot allow that team to collapse. He's the leader of the team. It counts heavily against him at the moment. Now, if the Nuggets do the same thing to the Lakers, we can have another conversation. Now, it doesn't mean Kawhi's reputation is now ruined forever. LeBron choked in 4. Kobe Bryant had a 3-1 lead on the Suns, and they wound up losing in 7. This happens to the greatest of all time, and maybe it just happened to Kawhi. But right now, he cannot be considered the best in the world, or maybe not even the second best in the world, after a Game 7 like that. Of course it's devastating.
Go ahead, KP.
I mean, to be honest, I forgot the first initial question because Max jumped all over the place, just throwing in LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. We're talking about Kawhi Leonard. And it's not the loss last night wasn't devastating. It was a tragedy. It was a tragedy. You know why? Because the man Kawhi, not only did he have an organization, a city, but he had a country in his hands in Canada. They wanted to give him the world. He had a great supporting cast. You talking about he joined the team that was the #1 seed when he joined Toronto when he was traded from the Spurs. He had everything he wanted in Toronto. He chose to leave Kyle Lowry, a guy that had been to multiple conference finals. Serge Ibaka, who was battle-tested, who had been to conference finals and even a finals appearance. Marc Gasol, who had been to conference finals and was battle-tested. He chose to leave that team in a weak Eastern Conference, to go to the West and compete in a tough Western Conference. Not only did he go to the Western Conference, but he went in the same city as LeBron James and said, I'm going to go against you. And who did he go and get? Paul George. Paul George. And I remember back in March, right before the pandemic, I was out there in New York, right there on the water on First Take. And I told you, Stephen A. and Molly, that the Clippers was looking funny in the light. And I told you, all you guys, that I did not trust the Clippers because of Paul George, because of his history in the playoffs, or what he do in closeout games. Closeout games like Game 7. He shoot 33% from the field, 22% from the three. I can't depend on him as being my Robin. You're looking at, go back to the Toronto days, he had that more. Kyle Lowry was actually the leader of the team. Kawhi actually just happened to be the best player on the team. He had a Robin and Pascal Siakam. This Clipper team was not battle-tested. I have been saying this all year long, that they had zero experience. You talking about a guy, Patrick Beverley, who never been past the second round. You had all of these guys, and you telling me that they were going to come out of the West. In my opinion, it was a tragedy, and I think this has hurt Kawhi's legacy. Go ahead, Stephen A.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to get a bit more specific. Number one, and I'm incredibly sad about it because I love my man Doc Rivers, but this is his 7th year in the Clippers organization, and that black cat running around clearly is not just about the Cowboys, it's about the Clippers organization as well, because they can't get to a conference finals yet again. Sam Cassell wants to be a head coach and deserves it. This might compromise that. Ty Lue will probably still get a head coaching job, particularly with David Griffin in New Orleans, but we don't know. Doc Rivers went to the championship, won a championship in 2008, lost it because the starting five was never healthy in Game 7, and lost in Game 7 to the Los Angeles Lakers, but then got contaminated by the Los Angeles Clippers, and lo and behold, look what happened. It wasn't just that Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Lou Williams sweat the bed. It was also that Jamal Murray dropped 40, that Jokic had shots and still dominated the game. He actually dominated the game by taking just 13 shots because his passing ability was just sensational. He had 22 rebounds to go along with like 13 assists. He just outclassed everybody, okay? And they're playing two-man ball, and Doc Rivers' defense couldn't adjust to it. They could not defend it. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever when you consider what the Clippers were supposed to be, particularly led by both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on the defensive end of the floor. We ain't even getting in the offense. But then once you do that, I don't blame Patrick Beverley. I don't blame Montrezl Harrell. I don't blame Zubac. I don't blame JaMychal Green. I'm looking at three dudes. I'm looking at Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Lou Williams. When you came to L.A., Sweet Lou, Lemon Pepper Lou, Doc Rivers said, you're a scorer. Be here to score. Mad respect for Lou. 2-time Sixth Man of the Year. We know how special he is. You're supposed to be able to stop the bleeding. You couldn't do it. The best part about Lou Williams last night was his press conference. He spoke very eloquently and very fluidly about what ailed this team. That was the best part about him. Paul George, we can point to the numbers. They're bad enough. But you know what makes it worse, KP? When you're standing alone for a wide open three in the right corner in the fourth quarter, and you hit the side of the backboard. The side of the backboard. This is when Denver is pulling away, and the Clippers desperately need a shot. You're Kawhi Leonard, 1 for 11 in the second half. Not even a trip to the free throw line with all of those muscles coming out of your ears. You couldn't